Hello.
Hi.
This is Britton Manasco. I'm with Howard Dover. I love it. Howard, Howard, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but you are the guest on this episode of Leading Lights, and I'm really pleased to have you here. So tell us what your role and then tell us a little bit about your operations. Take it from here, Howard.
Okay, I'm the director of the Center for Professional Sales at the University of Texas at Dallas. We're one of 48 recognized sales schools across the country by the University Sales Center Alliance. What does that mean? We produce the salespeople of the future who are ready to hit the ground running. So statistically speaking, research has been done that shows that students who come out of sales centers produce between 20 and 30% higher than their counterparts that don't go through a sales school. They tend to attrite less and they onboard faster. And that's something pretty consistent we found. The second role that we kind of play at the University of Texas at Dallas is we're in the fourth major metropolitan market in the United States. Don't tell Houston we're fourth because we include Fort Worth, so we get to be bigger than them. But we're a large metroplex, and we have a lot of companies in the Dallas market that look to us to also facilitate thought leadership events where we bring in the corporations from the Dallas market and across the nation about 5 to 6 times a year, and we discuss where the future of sales is headed. Of course, for our benefit, we then move into the classroom and immediately prepare our students for what is the future of sales. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do and what we do at the Center for Professional Sales at UT Dallas.
Well, speaking from other people I talk to about your reputation and what you've accomplished is you've closed the gap between the academic world of a university and the corporate world. You've got all sorts of sponsors that are very excited about what you're doing. How did you do that? Because that's not something that's easy to do. And a lot of people just get kind of lost in the midst of academia, and they're in another world separate from the business world. But you seem to have closed the gap. How have you done that? Tell us about that.
Well, I think the first thing is when you try to close that gap, University of Texas at Dallas is a unique place. We're an under 50-year-old institution that is growing 7 to 10% per year for the last 5 years. So we're probably one of the more innovative universities in the country. We're not set in the way we do things. We're still developing who we are, which kind of creates an atmosphere of innovation and entrepreneurship, which is not normal in most academic settings. So that's one of the first things is I landed in a place that is just giving me the runway to do what I want to do. And I think the second thing is that university sales centers across the country have collaborated for over 20 years ago. They formed an alliance, and there's kind of a model that you can use. And so when I started, I looked to the centers like Baylor University, University of Houston, Florida State, Kennesaw State, and DePaul University up in Chicago, most of them operating in relatively major markets, and said, hey, what are you doing? Then I went around the business community in Dallas and said, okay, what do you wish we were doing given what I know other people are doing? And then we began to form our advisory board. And our advisory board is usually tech-centric. We've had Oracle on the advisory board, IBM, Samsung. Right now we have Workday that's come on the advisory board. We've had people from Salesforce. So there's just a lot of different companies that have given us the insights and pushed us to be where the market is headed. And I think we just continue. My advisory board never pats me on the back. I will tell you that I always go in, and they don't understand that to turn an academic ship is an amazing feat. Within 6 months or a year to actually be teaching something brand new is just unheard of. And so I go back to my advisory board, and I remember they told me social selling was going to be big 3 years ago. I went back about a year and a half ago and said, hey, by the way, we've changed that. They said, yeah, so what? Now what are you doing about AI and digital convergence? And I was like, wait, hold on. Don't I get social selling? So I appreciate these guys. They keep pushing me to make sure that our program is relevant. So I kind of tip the hat off to, I have a great set of people who work with me and push us on the academic front to really be relevant.
Yeah. So what have you done for me lately, Howard?
Yes, exactly. Well, I remember this distinct comment with one of the, it's a Fortune 50 company, and we're sitting in the hallways in the middle of one of our biggest events of the year where we have hundreds of people on campus. And he says, I really appreciate the fact that you're teaching kids role plays, but, and then he just said, here's the things I wish you would address. And actually, you and I were involved in a discussion around playbooks with one of our friends that, one of these stack providers. And I said, well, actually, let me tell you, we're starting to look at how we design playbooks to actually help our students understand the full journey, not just the role play. And he just looked at me and said, you're doing what? And I said, yes, I'm doing stuff and you're behind, okay?
All right.
So,
I expect more
love
of
these
that.
guys. My team of advisors pushes me hard.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to some of this, but just briefly, tell me a little bit about your role in the Sales Enablement Society's upcoming conference in Dallas, end of October, October 26th and 27th, and why you, the viewer, should be there absolutely.
My role in the Sales Enablement Society is I showed up in West Palm Beach, and I guess I challenged Scott at a specific moment, or I don't know, I said a comment, and from that point on, there were only two academics in the room, Rob Peterson from NIU and myself. And so my role is actually the national chair and trying to coordinate everything from logistics to helping everybody come together. We've agreed to host it because at the University of Texas at Dallas, we know sales enablement is moving very aggressively across all the globe, and that there's a lot of confusion and excitement about this space. So why should you come? Because exactly what I just said, there's a lot of global excitement and confusion about this space. And so we're going to bring together a group of people that are trying to figure out, that have figured it out, and spend 2 to 3 days together sharing, learning, and debating and discussing where this field's going to go. The West Palm Beach experience was absolutely phenomenal. The 4 hours that we spent together was the most productive 4 hours I've ever had in my life at any event. And I don't anticipate that Dallas is going to be any less. I think it's going to be greater.
Wow, that's quite an endorsement. And, it's just the beginning, too. I think this is a really critical opportunity to convene, make those relationships, deepen your connections, and then, the conversation will continue like this going forward. But those relationships, forging those relationships, that opportunity is just something not to be missed, in my estimation.
I'd have to agree. I think when you look at what happened in the first meeting, you had thought leaders, you had executives, and you had sales enablement leaders not presenting. They weren't presenting. That was the key thing. They were discussing and debating. So you had somebody that normally you'd see as a keynote.
Yeah.
And yet you had 5 keynotes at a table with 3 or 4 other people. And we were literally arguing and discussing the future of where the field was going. And it was just amazing. I mean, there was nothing. So that's going to happen this time, but even larger.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people who are aware of what's going on is larger. And I have a lot of people I know, there's a lot of people that I already know are coming to Dallas because they know that this is going to happen. And also because, at the minimum, the University of Texas at Dallas, we're going to make sure that this is a great event. And there's going to be great people here. We're going to have great facilities and we're going to have great discussions. And everybody's going to come away learning something that they didn't know before.
So take us home, Howard. Tell us about the future of sales school and how people like you, leaders in this arena, are actually building the pipeline of tomorrow's sales force, tomorrow's talent force. Share with us some of that and what's coming and what you're bringing forth to the marketplace and why we should be excited about that.
to give you the wonderful pitch, I'm talking to the guy who wrote a book about convergence, right? The new era of selling is coming, and it isn't what it looks like today. And yet we have a transformational challenge in front of us in that we have old structures that exist, and yet we have a new customer request that we actually behave very differently. And so companies are in this process of either in a state of denial on this, or they're understanding what's actually happening and that the customer wants to buy differently and is buying differently. And so the org structure has to be looking differently. You have to have, as you state in your book, you have to have a fusion of sales, marketing, and customer service together. I call it convergence. You call it fusion. We have to learn to do things better. Well, one of the challenges you're going to face as you get into making that transformation is that you're not going to have the talent that's ready to move into that space. We're teaching fusion, convergence. We're teaching digital transformation and disruption in our undergraduate program. So our students are actually expecting when they come out into the field that you're ahead of this curve, not behind it, which is problematic for you if you're not ahead of it. Our students come back and say, "Hey, Dr. Dover, I had an interview yesterday with a dinosaur." And I said, "Oh, really? Why do you say that?" And they said, "Well, they're still dialing and smiling and have no sales stack, and there's no convergence of the technologies, and it's abysmal. I don't want to work for them. I don't know if they're going to be in business in a few years." And so when we teach the future of sales talent, what sales is going to look like, they actually expect you to be there. And so I think that's part of what's happening. We had one student, this was a really cool story. Hopefully I can give you this snippet. So he went out with a global brand. I won't say the global brand's name because that wouldn't be fair. And he sat down and they said, "Well, we're really struggling with our performance here. We're supposed to be 30% of close off leads and we're about 15% off leads." And he said, "Well, what does the pipeline look like? What's the customer journey look like? Can I look at this? Where's the breakdown?" And his boss, he was on an internship, not on a job, right? He's a junior heading into senior year. And she said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, what does it look like?" And she goes, "Well, this is what it looks like." And he goes, "So let me look at that." And they said, "Fine, that's your project." So he actually spent the summer and realized where the gap problem was, identified that he could actually have a $15 million contribution to the bottom line for that division only if they could eliminate the gaps in the funnel space. And he had analyzed the whole funnel for its breakdown as a student.
Wow.
And presented to the senior executive team, and it actually rolled up to the executive decision-making group. They took his presentation and moved it on to the final exec team. But these are the kind of people that we're producing, not just people who are going to smile and dial, people who are going to communicate with a customer in a way the customer wants to buy and understand the technology that's being brought in and understand the challenges that it faces, that maybe we don't really know how to do all this anymore because it's all brand new. And they want to see that the company is on the journey to making that happen in their company, that they're honest in their training about, "Hey, we're still learning how to do this and we're adaptive, and please help us learn what best practices are." And by the way, best practices are shifting as the consumer behavior is shifting. So we're in their shifting sand, folks. There is no foundation anymore. We're all on the islands of sea and we're sinking if we're not moving, and we got to learn together. And that's the kind of person we're producing. We're producing the person who's ready to take on the new era of selling. You like that? New era of selling?
Good. Well, red pill, blue pill. You choose. You want to be ahead of the curve or behind the curve. You choose. I think you're giving them that choice, right?
Yes.
I love it. So I want to thank Howard Dover for participating in Leading Lights, this episode. I thought it was a fantastic interview, very insightful. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with you in Dallas, Howard.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you and everybody else, right?
Absolutely.